How y'all doing, you all? So I'll give a little bit of time for some people to show. In the meantime, I'll show. I've been meaning to get this clip of a talk I had on Jose J.G. Gonzalez's channel um about objects falling in the vacuum. So I've been meaning to get that clip added to a video. So let me see if I can find it right now and we can add it uh, until we start talking about the topic at hand a bit later. And the book that y'all see right there, that's Stellar Atmospheres that we'll be talking about. There's a few different versions you can get on archive.org. But until then, so this is from a stream hosted by Jose J.G. Gonzalez. And towards the end, before Orwin left, I joined to challenge something he was saying about buoyancy instead of gravity. You know, the common argument, there's no gravity, it's buoyancy that makes things fall and things like that. So let's go on and hear this discussion and talk about it briefly.
Now tell me, we have...
It's right here. I'm trying to get a link to get on. I'll be on briefly. And it just so happens, I don't think he meant to do it, but it just so happens that the guy was leaving right when I was coming on, at least right after I came on.
Relative density. It causes a force.
So let's take a listen at this.
Where is the acceleration in density?
So that's me right there asking for a link. Can I get a link?
Where is the acceleration in density?
The relative density causes the displacement.
Where is the acceleration in density, which is mass divided by volume?
It's not directly in relative density. It's in the relative
So
density.
density is not a force. It is a property.
No, density is not a force. That's right. But it does cause a force when you change it. It causes a force when you change it and bring material in this equilibrium.
Okay.
So when it reaches equilibrium, is there still a force?
Well, it's counter.
Did you get that?
It stops until there is other things introduced, and then a new force of disequilibrium, because of the disequilibrium, may arise again and start displacing itself again.
So that a force just continues for what reason?
It manifests. Just like when you suddenly strain your muscles, then a force manifests there, making this motion. Right?
Yes.
But when there's relative density disequilibrium of an object or whatever in relation to the medium it's in, it in the same way spawns forth this force that causes the displacement.
Okay, so
you can
once the egg, say we're referring to the egg, once it stopped moving in the glass of water, Yeah, is this still a force?
Well, by introducing it, you mean dropping it in. Well, there's going to be
No, no,
a
no,
little bit
wait,
more
no,
fun.
no, 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 no.
Let my explanation finish.
Fucking
Okay, when
hell.
you drop an egg in, right? There, you drop
Yeah.
it in from a medium of air, which is a much higher relative density disequilibrium than in the water. So it's going to get some momentum, splash in, move all around, and then eventually find its equilibrium within the relative density of the water.
Okay, and is there a force at that point? Is there a force at that point? Once it's reached its equilibrium, is there a force?
No, then it's negated. It stops.
There is no force. So, Anthony Riley's glass of water with an egg in it won't weigh a glass of water with an egg in it. It will just weigh a glass of
That's
water.
right.
Is that
That's
what you're
why
saying?
it's. I know. It's a good point. That is why specifically relative density does not cause displacement. No, it's relative density disequilibrium.
It's
That
not
How
is
do you
fucking
get
that
the
causes the
equilibrium?
displacement. How many times? People, come on.
You just told me there's no force at equilibrium. If there is no force at equilibrium, it would mean the egg is weightless. If the egg is weightless,
And what's going on right here until some more people show. I've been meaning to get this this clip I was on Jose JG's channel when I was talking with a flat earther about buoyancy versus gravity.
how do
So,
you measure
this is like the
weight
lead
of
up.
the egg
Hold
in the
on, you're-
water?
This is like the lead up to that discussion.
You're tying all this weightless in there. That's not a word that I used, buddy.
Can more than
Again,
No.
your assumption.
I asked
You're
you if
dragging
there was a
other
force.
assumptions
You don't
into
understand
this.
what force is, do you?
I asked
more
you
than
if there
one
was a
force.
force.
my
You
question
said
is
no.
And I said as soon as it finds its equilibrium, then there is no longer a force because the force is
Arwen, you don't really
dependent
understand
So
what
if the
force
force
is,
is
do
gone,
you?
Arwen, how can I weigh the
You
egg?
guys really don't know how to let somebody
The
finish.
force is
answering.
gone, Arwen. The force is no longer there. How do I weigh the egg in the water? You follow me?
It's
If
just
there is
there,
no
and it's
force to
not
that egg,
functioning.
it cannot be pushing down on the scales, can it? But it does, doesn't it, in the real world?
Yes, it
because
can.
it's experiencing.
Yes, it can.
No, there's no
yes,
force.
it
Where's
can.
the force come from, Arwen? You just said there was none.
That's very simple.
How does
You
it
know
push
what
down
it
on
is?
the
You know what
scale?
it is, buddy? You know what it is?
No,
Right.
I
Yeah,
haven't
the
got a clue.
aquarium you put the egg in, right? In relation to its surroundings is in this equilibrium because it's surrounded by air, which is a lot less dense than the water. So the entire thing
fuck has that got to
still
do
is
with the
in this
weight of the egg?
equilibrium, and because of a lack of maneuverability, it then will proceed to push downward. It will exert pressure instead of
Arwen,
Yes.
have you
That is
ever
absolute
actually
nonsense,
exactly
Arwen.
like I
studied
explained
science?
at the beginning.
Arwen, have you ever actually taken a class
what
in
tells
science?
where down and up is? What tells density to go down? And
So
what
here I
tells
am joining right here.
buoyancy to go up? What defines up and
Now,
down?
I was trying to join so I can talk to Arwen about the claims he was making. But you'll see in a moment he doesn't stay on much longer. But I do think it's an interesting interaction and another example of a common thing that flat earthers do when evidence is presented to them. So let's check that out.
That's the question.
Yeah,
Arwen.
it is. Unfortunately, relative density by
It
itself
also-
doesn't explain it.
So what does?
We don't have an explanation for that. Nobody really. You can imagine that you have by presupposing.
Well, we
gravity
actually
and then
do,
thinking
but-
that you know everything, but nobody really knows why it is the way it is.
So it's
Why
not
the
the term-
relative
what
density is divided in the
So
spectrum
what
as we
defines up
perceive
and
it.
down?
How is he
Not
right,
what-
C. Montreal?
what we say
What is he
it
right about exactly?
Let me jump in for 30
You-
seconds. 30 seconds, Carlos. Sorry to interrupt. Thank you, everybody, for checking in. I'm going to let it roll for another
What is he right about exactly?
10 minutes. We've been joined by a bunch of people right here. Let me say the names of people here. Al K, Arwin, Bob the Science Guy, Carlos Pagan, Darrell Berry, D-Back, Erebus, Farmer's Boy, Gently Channel, James Mays, Menace to Sobriety, Piperot, Schrodinger's Cat, Spurs Chemo, and Stingray. Really quick. Maybe because Darrell, he does streams on his channel. I don't know if you want to take over this hangout and stream it on your channel. It's up to you because I'm going to close in about 10 minutes. So it's up to you or anybody else that want to take out the stream. Maybe I'll pay also.
And we
So I'll
did
let you know
we
in
did
about 10
complete the
minutes.
stream
We'll
on my
do the
channel, by
final
the way.
thoughts, and then I'll get out of here. Gotta go to work. Carry on, guys.
All right. Yeah, I'm gonna leave because I know. Yeah, these guys probably need a little circle jerk afterwards. No offense,
Arwen, do you
guys.
know the difference?
So you always like to do that. So I'm just gonna leave because I made every bit of my argument here that I could, and if you didn't register, then that's really your problem. I
Arwen, do you
do
know the
appreciate
difference
having
between
the
density and
argument, though. I do
buoyancy?
appreciate getting into this, being tested for what I
Arwen, do you
know
know
and
the
what I
difference
figured out. I
between
do
density
appreciate
and
that. So
buoyancy?
thank you,
Would you
gentlemen,
allow me to
for
ask you one
having
question
me
before you
and
go, though?
debating with me. But
So here I am trying to ask him a question, but it's too late. He's about to leave. That's the link for the video being shown right now, by the way.
gonna leave now. So thanks for having me,
Basically,
Jose.
he can ask what
Thank-
defines
I'll
up
see
and
you
down.
later.
Thank you very
Would
much
you-
for being
No.
here, Arwin. Welcome anytime.
All right. See you around. Bye, guys.
Bye, turd.
And to think I was polite to him earlier on. Fuck's sake. That was a waste.
It does.
Right. That's exactly
I
what
was
I was
polite
just
to him the
thinking.
whole time.
I was
He's
polite
just
to him.
yeah. We
Dude,
were
this guy
actually
has
very
a
polite
pistol
to him
make
the whole
an
time.
over his head.
How the
I
fuck
think
can the
maybe the
ratio between
disconnect
materials
is-
be in disequilibrium? Please explain that to me, because I just can't understand that.
I think the issue is that they don't understand that more than one force can act on a body at any given time. You can have multiple forces working in different directions. That's what a Lagrangian point is in space. A Lagrangian point is when all of the various
Buoyancy.
gravities equal out, and that's why the body doesn't move, because everything's pulling on it in different directions, but in equilibrium.
Equally, yes. Yeah, but relative density, all you're saying is, you know, like salt water. Salt water has a relative, I believe, because that's comparing it to just ordinary water. That's it. How can that be in disequilibrium?
May I present a video
can't.
real fast? Y'all feel like taking a look?
Go ahead,
Yeah,
man.
sure.
Yeah. Let's change.
Yeah. Go
change
for
the
it.
air a little bit.
You're coming up in a hangout right now. Give me a moment here. So here we go about the
Yeah, you
show
can
this
present
video.
Either a window or the full desktop.
Window, let me see here. Present a window.
To the window, to the wall.
Boom.
Oh shoot, I'm not on mute. Sorry.
It says an error
You
has
are
occurred.
up.
Let me see. It is presenting.
Yeah.
Y'all can see the feather and coin right there where it says that.
Well, once you start playing it, yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, once
Go
you
for
play,
it.
you'll be able to see.
I think I might have seen this one before. Or something very similar.
Talk about it while the video is
Okay.
playing.
Awesome. So looking
So
at
this
this
guy
video,
was second
it
level.
has the guy has some feathers and it has a coin, and we all know that a feather is a lot less dense than the coin, right? So the logic would be if it's all relative density and things like that, then a feather should always fall slower than a coin because the feather. Hey, what's going on, JJ? So before I start talking about stars and Spectra and Cecilia Payne, I want to get this little small discussion captured as a nice little segue into the discussion today. If you want to join the chat, the link is in the description, and we'll go ahead and keep it rocking. So this talk will last about 5 more minutes. I think it's very illustrative, and we'll go ahead and maybe talk about this briefly, and then we'll go into the main discussion. But this guy here will go ahead and suck all the air out of the tube there, which means that all you'll have is just some feathers and a coin. So all we're dealing with now is density, the density of the two different objects with nothing interfering with them. But as we'll be able to see in a moment, the coins still fall. I mean, excuse me, the coins change and fall at the same pace as the feather. So whereas before with the air up in there, the coins was falling faster and the feathers were interfered with by the air and fell slower. Without any interference, we'll see that the coins and the feathers fall the same exact speed. So, sure, Montreal, in one moment, a flat earther or somebody who believes that it's relative density and it's not gravity at all can explain it. I mean, we must have to conclude that there's some other force that's acting upon the coins and the feathers in the same exact way, and we can see that when there's no interference with error. So I was actually coming on to ask Aaron that he might have sensed the evidence coming and ran at that moment, but I don't know. But yeah, but she's gonna show it close up as well without the error, and you can see that the coins and the feathers clearly fall at the same pace, with no error interfering with them. So
Oh yeah.
that shows what happens when there's two different densities, just with nothing interfering with them at all.
Go to Daryl. Go to Action Labs in Google.
Go to what?
Action Lab. Action Lab.
Action Lab.
Why don't-
How you doing,
why
C.
don't
Montreal?
you?
Action Lab feather and vacuum test.
So right here, so I showed this video, and now we have a flat earth believer. I don't think I know this one. He's wanting to show a different video to combat that video. So let's take a look at the video. We'll see take a look at the video he's talking about.
Feather and I'm not sure what. Yeah, just try like that one. See what.
How you doing today, by the way, buddy? Talking to you, C. Montreal. How you doing today? Doing okay? Are you able to hear me okay? I'm not able to hear you if you're talking. Give me a moment here. Maybe it's something with my headset. One moment here. Maybe it's something with my settings. So let me just close the Hangout and I'll reopen. Give me one moment here. Okay, seems to be working now. Can you say something now? There we go. How you doing, man? I think I can hear you. Can you try to talk and see if I can make sure I can hear you? Hmm. All right, let me try this one more time. I may just have to make a new meeting. That's what I might end up doing. Give me a moment. All right, y'all. So right now, Google Meet apparently is having a network error. So what I'll do is just wait a little bit. I'll finish going through this video here, and then when this video is finished, then I'll go ahead and we'll try to get y'all in again. So just hold tight. Apparently Google Meet is having a network issue. This video will take about 5 more minutes, I think, before it ends, before the part I want to show ends, and then we'll get everybody back in. Let me put that in the chat as well. So in case anybody just joins, hey, what's going on, Miss King? So to repeat, Google Meet is having a network issue. I'll finish this video clip and then try to add the meet again. All right, so just give me a second. I'll get back to the video. So at this point, I showed the video with the feathers and the coin, and now he's going to try to show another video to disprove that. So let's see what happens.
All right, so yeah, go to this one. If
right here,
yeah,
on the
that
left.
one. So I'm about to show you the trickery that you guys are trying to pull on us.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Let's go
Sounds
big
good.
screen. Let's go big screen. Let's make the screen nice and big. Because remember, that guy was touching that vacuum. Anything could have been a variable there that we haven't accounted for. So, you know, he goes through the video here. He's telling us it's ball and feather, magnetite.
Oh, not this again.
Didn't we do this yesterday?
Farmer's boy, be
For fuck's
patient.
sake, do we have to keep
patient.
repeating the same old shite?
Be patient.
So you notice this is again something that was already covered with this letter believer, but it's being brought up again. So let's see what's going on with it.
One of your guys believe that things fall at the same rate.
But
I'm about to demonstrate.
Can you piss off and troll somebody?
I'm about to demonstrate, Farmer's Boy, to your.
You ain't demonstrating
I'm
jack
about to
shit. We've seen this
demonstrate-
before.
I don't know who's talking anymore, guys. Who was it that was somebody making a rebuttal?
Yeah, I know. I don't know why Farmer's Boy
Aye.
is jumping in when I'm showing you that things do not
So that's
fall
channel
at
Q?
the same rate. All right.
Okay, so let's hear Channel Q and see what he has to say. So what were you saying, Channel
So
Q?
I don't know why he keeps on interrupting when I'm trying to, because he knows that he's seen this.
Well, we know Jose is about to get off, so just go ahead and break it down. I think he's going to let you talk now. So what are you saying, Channel
All
Q?
right. Okay. So skip to 2 minutes. Let's get to the nuts and bolts of it all. Okay.
Okay.
So this is in real time, right? This is in real time in a vacuum. And then I would like you to, once he drops it, let's have a look at what happens. Okay, so let's slow it down. Let's slow it down.
You mean to slow it down right here, you're saying?
Yeah, slow it down right here. Go back and have a look again. Look at the deception. That's it. All right, so go back. Right, now have a look, and you will see. Well, you tell me what happens. I won't narrate to you. You tell me. Have a look here.
You can also use the greater than, less than to go frame by frame.
And his name is Chemo. I'm Channel Q.
Thank you.
Just a fall momentarily.
So you explain to me, Daryl, why in a vacuum we don't see things fall at the same rate. Daryl, talk to me.
Well, looking at this, sir, only thing I could imagine is that it's not released at precisely the same time. You understand that
Daryl, go to 1 minute, Daryl. Keep this video up, Daryl. Go back. Daryl, stay calm. Go to the middle.
Let him speak, Spurs.
You're telling me to stay calm, and you're the one that just talked over me. So if you noticed earlier, I presented a video, and then you presented this video. I spoke up for you. I said, let the guy talk. And then you just asked me a question, and I went to answer, and you immediately started saying, no, go to the other video, blah, blah, blah. And then you started telling me to calm down. So look in the mirror. So let me actually respond.
Yes, you're right, Daryl. You're right. You're right.
So,
my bad. Go ahead.
So looking at the video, given that this is a vacuum, the reason why you would see the feather hit a little bit later is because it wasn't released at the same time. If you look at the actual speed of fall, it looked to be falling the same speed to me, but the mechanism is not perfect. What you may want to do is to account for any imperfection in a release mechanism is to simply look at. Oh, let me catch up with the chats here. What's going on, Shawn Hawkins? Welcome. Meat was having some network issues a moment ago, so I'm gonna finish this clip and then try to add people again if they want to join. I'll be talking about Spectra and stars and what I'm learning from Cecilia Payne about just the process of what she did. Videos. I looked at several of these videos. There's even some of these videos where they release things in these videos. What's going on, C4? Talking about this little introductory clip. Then I'll add some people into the meet. I'll be talking about Spectra and stars and then see what other flat earthers want to talk about. Release mechanism is to simply look at more than one of these videos. I looked at several of these videos. There's even some of these videos where they release things in giant chambers that are made into vacuums, and it's clear that things fall at the same pace. So in order for you to...
In the middle of this video, he shows in slow motion that they fell at the same rate. But when we looked at it in real time, they did not. Why? How do you explain that?
Before you do, Daryl, I just want to say that
hold on,
Chemo
Lewis. Why
has
do you
had
interrupt
this.
like that, Lewis? When he's just about to answer, Lewis.
Right, it's fine. Chemo has
so if
had.
you go back to,
Chemo has
1
had this
minute,
explained.
go back, Daryl. Just go back in the video. Look, let's
Well,
have a look.
I did question Shawn whether it was a complete vacuum. That's why I said, given it's a vacuum, that could be reasons why the feather hit a bit later. And then we'll hear a little bit later how someone else answers the release mechanism that I didn't consider. So if you look at enough of these, you can see that similar to the experiment. What's the name of that? What's the name of that experiment again with the weights that spin around? I forget the name of that experiment. But you know, he did those experiments with different, apparently, with different objects and different directions and so on and so forth. And overall, the average showed the force of gravity. So,
see what you think of that one. Right?
Really quick, I have like one sentence.
Go back. I think it's back a bit more in the middle.
We went through this for Chemo when he presented the other day.
Go back, around here, Daryl. That's the one. Yeah, go right there. Right. So have a look at this, and we can see that they move exactly at the same rate when they're slowed down, Daryl. You got to press play, Daryl. But
I just want to point out that Chemo has had this explained to him numerous times, and he continues to go at the exact same line every time.
Yes. Did y'all hear that explanation? Let me play that. Let me play that again.
But
I just want to point
rate when they're slowed down, Daryl. You got to press play, Daryl. But
I just want to point out that Chemo has had this explained to him numerous times, and he continues to go at the exact same line every time.
Yes. A common explanation y'all gave last
what was
time.
the explanation? So Daryl doesn't have his own explanation. He wants to know another guy from the internet, another YouTuber's explanation. Interesting. Go ahead, Lewis.
Did you hear that? I already gave him an explanation, but to support his belief, to support his, you know, talking down, he may believe that I didn't give an explanation. It's funny.
Your YouTuber version of what happens here.
Well, so there's 3 separate drops. And the third one that is done in real time, there's 2 possibilities. The first is that the feather has some...
So, Daryl, can you play
So you're doing it again. You're doing it again, Channel Q. So my understanding is...
Yeah, Daryl, look, exactly the same
That's
time.
not Channel Q.
Stop calling him Channel Q because it's like, what's wrong with you if you don't even know who you're talking to? You don't even know who you're talking to. So how could you be right about anything? You can't. I'm Channel Q. You hear my voice? You hear my voice, Lemonbird?
Yeah,
you hear my voice, Lemonbird?
Hey,
Lemonbirds, you hear my voice?
So, Daryl, can you
hear that
explain
voice?
to me why we see
Can you
this
tell the
one where
difference now?
they fall at the same rate, but in the real time they do not?
Yeah.
Well, you didn't let me get through the explanation, Chemo.
You have a problem allowing others to speak. That's one of your defaults, Lewis. I understand that. When other people want to talk, you have...
Lewis, Jen is spelling your name wrong in the chat. You might as well go correct that.
Okay, so Daryl, can you, because you brought up a Cavendish and you said, oh, it was successful. How do you explain this, Daryl? What's going on here?
That's really rich of you to say that, Chemo, because you interrupted me. I never even got to the first explanation.
Yes, Daryl's showing the video, and I'm asking Daryl about his claim of things for...
Are you in control of the conversation? Like, do you have absolute control? Like, what is your point?
Everybody else, and wait your turn.
I did. You asked. You asked what my explanation for why this happens is.
Yes, the fact is, we were talking. I don't remember the full range of discussion, but at one point it was said that this was explained to someone already, and I asked him what was the explanation that
Yes.
was given before, and he was in a process. You gave a little. Somebody gave a little bit of snark on it, and then finally he was in the process of explaining what was explained before, and then you cut in wanting me to
The
say it
problem
again.
is
So
that Spurs presented this to us the other day, and we went right through it all. And he's just gone round in a full circle, and he's doing it all exactly again.
So what was the explanation y'all gave him last time? You noticed that, right? It's a common thing. You give I experienced this with UC Montreal. I experienced this with Anthony Riley, the Sleeping Warrior. Apparently, he was trying to have a discussion with me about, iron in the center of the earth and Curie point. And but he already had that discussion with GeoStreber, and he explained to them the thermal, the dynamo theory and things like that. So it's interesting how they keep bringing the same arguments.
Part of it is that the feather could be electrostatically charged to the roof of this, and so the explanation, that's one reason that the feather would fall a little bit slower, because when the magnet releases, it has a little bit of force holding it there, so there's a little bit of delay before it actually falls.
It wasn't released at exactly the same time. Basically, the same thing I said, right?
Right. There's some error in the release mechanism for one reason or the other, and
But
then
still, go ahead.
Then the other explanation could be that because it's a separate drop, he did not do an equivalent job of evacuating the chamber.
That's why I started with assuming it's a vacuum, meaning there could be a little bit of air still in there. I'm not saying it's a perfect chamber.
Right.
That's why I suggested that you watch multiple videos and you can see this in action in
I
multiple
did.
different
I
scenarios.
did. I showed another video in real time, and they did not fall at the same rate. Would you like to see that one?
Yes, and the release mechanism on that was even more dodgy.
So can you show me, Daryl, in real time, things fall at the same rate?
Yeah, let me jump in for a minute.
A few times already.
Yeah, I don't think this is going to happen in this one show because I got to run and I got 17 people here. If I give everybody a minute, it's going to be about 15 minutes at least.
All right, so this is clip here.
Okay. Yeah,
give me a moment. I'll start a meetup.
Perfect.
And I can put a new link in here.
Yeah, nice. Let me do the roundup.
Yeah, so I think that was an interesting clip to get in and see how the flat earth believers bring the same argument again that was already covered. So it's quite interesting. Plus, we got the little bit of a discussion about how the vacuum works with the coin and the feathers. So pretty cool. Thanks to Jose JG for hosting that. And so here's the invites for the meetup. Let me add this in here right now. At least I'll try it again and see if we can get people in. So give me a moment here. But I'll talk about stuff. So everybody's happy to join, welcome to join now. But I'll talk about Cecilia Payne and Spectra first. And I'm still very much an amateur. And I was reading, sparingly. But still interesting reading. And even just what I've read already is enough to show oh, I'm sorry. I still left the space up in there. It's going to mess up the link. It's still enough to show the depth with which real scientists actually do things. So give me a moment. I'll join here and see if the network thing is fixed. See if we can get everybody in. All right, so joining the meeting. Okay, it seems to be working now. As far as I can tell, it's working. All right. So here's the information. Type this link. Click in comments or description, or to join you can call up, so I'll just leave that up there for now. And Let me actually make this a bit more space worthy. All right, so it looks like the network difficulty has cleared. People can join the meetup whenever you want. I'll scroll through the chats real fast, and then I'll go ahead and welcome Earth is Seriously Flat. And please say something. I'll make sure my speaker's working now.
Happy Flatter Day.
Awesome. So it sounds good. It's working. So anybody who wants to join, the link is in the description and in the live chat. And I'll start talking about Stellar and Stars and Cecilia Payne, and I guess I'll talk for about 30 minutes. And I'm certainly welcome. Past what we can do today is I'm still an amateur at it, but I'm still welcome for any flat earther to challenge my knowledge or challenge the knowledge or the sayings of Cecilia Payne and what she's saying, and that may be interesting. But definitely I want to highlight the works of these people who are doing such great things in science. But give me a moment, I'll scroll through the comments, then I'll start talking about this book. So I see that it looks like Shawn Hawkins and Montreal is having a bit of, shall we say, interaction. Mies is here as well. And Strong was saying Actions Lab could have got a bigger sponsorship. I mean, have a sponsorship, could have got a bigger lab. It served its purpose enough, I think. I think anybody who wants to not look at the evidence will, you know. But it was enough to show what's going on for anybody who's looking clearly. I'm learning that the flat earth believers, their belief seems to limit their ability to think. It's amazing. I'm thinking about making some kind of video talking about that. How their belief is like standing in the way of their understanding. Steve Montreal says, Shawn, why don't they train the astronauts in the biggest vac chamber they have? So Shawn was saying how the lab's tests are not valid, and Shawn said they don't need to put the astronauts in undue danger. They could just test any suit for a vacuum by pumping them into a sufficient pressure. So in other words, they don't have to be in an absolute zero vacuum. They can just, give them in a certain amount of pressure differential. Good question, Shawn. It's interesting how the flat earthers, they make these assumptions and assume that reality has to match their assumption or it's false. It's crazy, but yeah. Things don't have to match their assumptions 100% of the time to be false, or even at all to be, or otherwise it's false. So I think it looks like C Montreal is trying to say, and let me show the chats I'm looking at, by the way, as I scroll through. So I'm scrolling through the chats right now. I didn't get to the ones at the very, very bottom yet. But let me go ahead and show the ones I'm looking through now so y'all can see. So that's that browser there. Now I'll add another. Y'all can definitely, I wouldn't mind giving y'all some time to talk if y'all guys want to get on and talk. Oh. Okay, looks like this will be good enough to work. It's not perfect, but it'll let y'all see the chats I'm scrolling through right now. So Let me scroll up a little bit, see where I was. Okay, so they were talking about how the military trains. You don't have to have 100% vacuum. Funny you should mention water, because if I was the one in the test, if I was the one in to test something under pressure and space, of course, I was testing underwater. All right, so stationary Earth. Montreal believes the Earth is stationary, not sure it's flat. And there's a link, by the way. The link is working. Did something happen? The one that joined earlier, where you got booted out. Hey, what's going on, gentleys? The link is in the description if you, and in the chat if you want to join. I'll post it again. So stationary Earth. That's what SE stands for. It's from the stationary SE Montreal. So it looks like they're talking about how star trails prove that the Earth is moving. And again, hello to Gentleys. Thanks for joining. Welcome to Montreal. How do you say your name, by the way? Do you say C Montreal, or do you say something else?
It's SE Montreal. Okay. Stationary Earth.
Awesome. SE Montreal. Thank you, sir.
Good to talk to you guys again.
All right. Good to talk to you as well. So it looks like they're talking about the stationariness, you talking about you and Shawn Hawkins, the stationariness of the Earth, whether it moves or not. It's in the middle of the discussion. I can certainly see how.
Correct. I wish he would come on, because I can't see the chat anymore. Invite him on.
Oh, he's already invited. Everybody's welcome on. I'll post the link again. He wants to debate you, Shawn Hawkins. I don't mind giving y'all some time to talk. And of course, Gently is always welcome. But if you want to come on and debate C Montreal, perhaps we can put like a. Oh, here he is. Awesome. Welcome, Shawn.
Hey, how you doing?
No, good. So why we do this is it's clear y'all both have y'all's position. I'll get you this last chat. Let's see what Gently's talking about. Underwater test suit. So certainly saying just an underwater test is for airtight stability, not necessarily survival in a vacuum. Most includes it can't be stationary. I like to hear that argument as well, Gently. So I'm gonna do this. So it sounds like y'all were discussing whether the Earth is stationary or moves, or what was the main discussion? Would y'all say?
Well, it started out him saying that astronauts can't survive in a vacuum, or something about the why don't they test spacesuits in a vacuum?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it just puts things under unnecessary risk. I mean,
okay.
Why would you have to put an astronaut in the spacesuit in the vacuum when you can just pump the spacesuit full of air and see if it leaks?
I gotcha. And what would you say is the main point, SE Montreal?
I would agree with him on that. The point is, why would you not train your astronauts in the environment that they're going to be in?
Mm-hmm.
Makes absolutely no sense.
Right, they did.
Why
okay.
would?
Well, why don't we do this, guys? Why don't we do this? I'll pull up a timer, and I'll make it. How long do y'all think you need to make your argument so the viewers can understand what you're saying, so the other person can understand what you're saying, then the other person can make their argument, no interruptions, and then we can go back and forth and see who makes more sense. How long do you think you need to make your point, Shawn, and how long do you think you need to make your point, Montreal, with no interruptions?
A few minutes.
So I'll put it on 5. You agree 5 minutes, Montreal?
I don't even think we need that much. We'll just talk respectively, and when the other person stops, the other person talks.
Okay, sounds good. I'll set it for 5 minutes just in case. So I have a timer going for 5 minutes. I'll have it showing momentarily. So why don't we do this? So I believe Montreal popped in first. So you go ahead and start Montreal. I'll set it for 5 minutes. You said you don't need 5 minutes, so just let me know when you finish. If it hits 5 minutes, I'll stop it and give Shawn his 5 minutes. Audience will understand your perspective. Then we'll have a foundation for y'all to go back and forth. So go ahead, Montreal, it's your turn.
Sure. My case is very simple. I asked Shawn, being an ex-army man, I asked him, why would you not train the astronauts in the environment that they're going to be in, like you train the soldiers every single time, not always with live ammo, as we agreed, but you do train them sometimes with live ammo. So why would you not train them in the biggest facility in the world, which is owned by the US government? Why would you build a huge pool and train them in the pool? That's all the time I need. I yield my time.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, sir. So I'll go ahead and restart the time again for Shawn. He'll have his 5 minutes. He may not need it as well. So he's saying, why don't they? So you heard him. Go ahead and what's your rebuttal or your point?
Well, number one, the live ammo. We trained in situations where we'd have to shoot at people and know what it feels like to get shot back at. There's everybody talks about it. It's the famous training. It's a night training where we sit and we watch a talk. They talk to us first, tell us what's out there, what we're going to encounter, and then we go out with blanks. Why don't we go out with live ammo? It's nighttime. They're shooting actual tracers over our heads. They're about 50 feet over our heads. There's absolutely no way we can get hurt by them. They have actual explosives that go off in the distance. And then we hear them. We can feel the shock wave. So why would they use that? Why would they use live ammo, right? Why would they use blanks, put blanks in our guns if we want to experience what it's really like to shoot people at night? That's silly, dude. Why put people in unnecessary risk to perfect the equipment they're going to use in a hostile environment? You can't breathe on the moon without equipment. You can't exist on the moon without equipment. Why would you test yourself in that environment with equipment that's not been tested, or parts of equipment that hasn't been tested? Now you're trying to figure out what it's going to be like to be on the moon with less gravity. Well, can you do that in a vacuum chamber? Can you change the effect of gravity in a vacuum chamber? No. Where do you check that? In a place where you are more buoyant, than the material that you're going to be in. In this case, in the case on the moon, it's air. There's less air. There's no air. Therefore, we're more buoyant. Where can we test that on Earth? Well, we can test it in a swimming pool, right? You don't weigh as much in a swimming pool. So, yeah, that's where you test the environment that you're going to be in. Because if your suit works, you don't care about the rest of the environment. I'm done.
Okay, thank you, sir. So maybe I could ask some questions to help clarify each of y'all's positions. So going back to Montreal, are you saying that they can't properly test these suits unless they put them in an actual real vacuum?
Well, of course.
Why?
And to make sure I'm clear, you're saying
isn't that obvious?
Okay, so I asked him the question, so he made his point straightforward. They can't possibly test these suits unless they put them in the actual vacuum of space, because it's meant to be in a vacuum of space. Can you explain how exactly the testing and however they test it works to prepare them for space so that we know that they're really in space with those suits, Shawn?
I'm sorry. What was the question?
How can you justify that the tests they do actually are sufficient to prepare for space? Because apparently he's saying that they can't really be in space because the suits haven't really been tested. They don't really work. Does that make sense according to your claims, Montreal? That they haven't really been tested, so how can they really work?
No, that's not my claim.
Like I don't
My
really
claim
see the
is if you
logical. Go ahead.
My claim is very simple. If you make a suit to be worn in the vacuum of space, you have to test it in those conditions.
And that's my point.
How can you argue with that?
Well, in other words, there must be some kind of logical conclusion to that. In other words, it sounds like if you're saying that they can't test it unless they test it in the actual vacuum of space, and we know that they don't test it.
No, that's not what I'm saying. No, you're not listening, Daryl.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
What is the difference between a vacuum sucking something, like a balloon, a vacuum pulling on the exterior of this balloon and sucking it and making it bigger, or pumping air into the balloon and making it bigger? Which is, what's the difference?
Well, apparently a vacuum is not a sucking force. We can get into that at another time. That's not the point. You guys are deviating from the point, as usual.
What's the point?
It's a simple question. If you were to make a submarine, where would you test it? Would you test it in the water, or would you test it in a vacuum?
Well, they test it.
Why are you guys not understanding
water,
this?
but they don't test subs in the water. They pump them full of air. They test like tanks, like pressure holding tanks. They fill them full of air. They don't test them in the environment they're going to put them in.
Right, that's in the initial stage.
Right, and that's
at the end. Where do they test them in the end?
A new suit is put in a vacuum, is pumped full of air to see if it'll hold air, see if there's any leaks. That's all they're worried about. The only thing they're worried about is leakage. And you can
Shawn, I get that.
Big thing by pumping it full of air than you can by putting an astronaut in an untested suit in a vacuum chamber.
Shawn, you're talking the complete opposite of what they should be doing.
No, I'm not.
They should not be pumping the suit with air.
Explain why.
They should be putting.
Well, let's hear what he's saying they should be doing. So let's give him a moment. So what should they be doing to test these suits in Montreal?
Like, are you guys really asking this question? Is it not obvious?
No, it's not obvious. That's why we're asking.
Come on, Daryl.
Not at all.
Shawn, seriously.
I mean, sir.
I'll answer it for you if you want.
If you want to have a discussion,
let's
have a discussion, man. I mean, you're saying you're making the claim, so just make the claim. How should they test it? How should they test the suit?
I already made my claim. You made a counterclaim, and I'm telling you, your counterclaim makes no sense.
Okay, I've explained my counterclaim. You haven't explained why your claim is valid. You have not explained why putting a suit under pressure is not the same as putting it under a vacuum from the outside. You've not explained that sufficiently.
Okay, I will explain it to you, so you can understand it, I guess. If you have a suit and you test it by putting air into it, right?
Mm-hmm.
The mechanics of that suit when you move your arms and so on and so forth is completely different than that suit under pressure in a vacuum.
Okay, they weren't testing for maneuverability of the suit. They were testing for leakage, dude.
Fine, you do that. You test for leakage, yes, that's step one.
Mm-hmm.
Then you move on, right?
To the swimming pool for maneuverability.
Why would you go to the swimming pool?
Because that's when you test the suit with a person in it, and that's when when your environment is closest to the moon.
Shawn, you know it makes no sense.
So let's stop, guys.
From
let's
stage
stop.
one, you should be going to.
This is what's going on. Like, it's still like Shawn saying what we're doing, you saying this wrong. Why don't you just tell us step by step, Montreal, how you actually supposed to test the suit? Just tell us from start to finish how you test the suit.
I'm not an expert. I don't work for NASA, but I'll tell you how a logical person would do it.
Okay.
Okay, so Shawn says first step, they pump air into it to see if there's leaks.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds logical to me, right?
Okay. So that's the first. You agree that's the first step.
You don't want to have pressure. Right.
Okay.
Now, after you determine that the suit has no holes, no leaks, right? Wouldn't it be obvious to want to know that suit under the environment that you're going to be working in can withstand the pressure of the environment of the vacuum?
You just did.
So since you have the largest vacuum, let me finish, please, Shawn. Since you have the largest vacuum chamber in the world, with I think 6 or 10 feet thick concrete walls, why don't you just test it there? That's what I would do. I mean, I'm not a scientist, but heck, makes sense to me.
You know how they vacuum pack cheese?
I don't care how they vacuum pack cheese. We're talking about the moon with.
I'm talking about vacuum.
With all due respect, Sean.
That's what I'm talking. Do you know how they vacuum pack certain foods?
Don't know and don't care at this point.
The way they do it is they submerge them in a tank, or they put them under pressure. They don't vacuum pack food. They put the package under pressure, forcing the air out. It's the same process. It's the same thing. Forcing the air out of something through pressure around the object is the same thing as sucking the air out by a vacuum. Now, it's the exact same opposite when it comes to the suits. You can get the exact same effect, the exact same benefit of testing by pumping a suit full of air rather than putting the suit under vacuum. It's the exact same thing.
I'm afraid you're absolutely wrong, sir.
No, I'm afraid you have absolutely no idea what you are talking about.
Okay, well let's do this, guys, and stuff, because we're not going to get anywhere just going back and forth saying you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. But what we can do is show some evidence. So Montreal, can you show some evidence that supports that your way of testing the suit is better? And Shawn, can you show some evidence showing that your way of testing the suit is better, or that they in fact do test suits that way? And we could just go to the evidence.
Well, I'm not prepared to show any evidence right now. I could probably Google something.
Certainly. So this is what I'll do. Because I meant to talk about stellar atmospheres. I'll talk about stellar atmospheres for a while and talk about this book. Because again, just going back and forth saying you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, it's not going to get us anywhere, right? Y'all agree?
No, I have. I can provide you with something to look at.
Certainly. So what I'll do, I'll take 15 minutes and do my intro on stellar atmospheres. Both of y'all can get y'all's evidences that y'all want to show that backs up your claims, so it's not just words. And I'll even put a timer on myself. So I'll put a 15-minute timer that I'll be talking about stellar atmospheres, and then we can go back to, hey, this is the evidence that shows I'm right. This is the evidence that shows I'm right. And now we can talk about evidence. So let y'all know what I'm talking about, by the way. And just to hold the background noise, I'll mute y'all momentarily. But y'all can just unmute yourselves after 15 minutes when y'all have your evidence. So I'll just mute y'all temporarily. So, what I want to talk about today, guys, so as y'all can see, there's this book showing called Stellar Atmospheres. And what I can't really say how I got onto this lady. This lady name is Cecilia Payne. I was looking, of course, looking in the Flat Earth a bit and seeing how little they actually investigate things with evidence. Oh, you're welcome for the hammer, gently. And I'd appreciate you, even though there's not a lot of people here now, but if you can keep an eye on the chat, make sure people don't go crazy. And we appreciate you sharing that link. So maybe that's something that I'll, when they get back with that evidence, that's something I'll throw into the mix as well. This video here that they could look at and talk about. So I have that queued up when we get back in. So one thing that Flat Earth actually brought me to the understanding of how valid science is and how the efforts that they put into science. So, and I started to actually want to learn about scientists, because you'll hear Flat Earthers say, oh, these people are just listening to NASA, or just listening to the government, or these people, they're just believing and they're just listening to what they're told by the church. But I noticed that these people don't actually research scientists. Of course, if they did, I'm sure they wouldn't believe what they're saying anyway. But the fact is, they don't talking to them, they admit that they don't know these people. They haven't read any of their books or read any of their biographies. But so I read this short biography about Cecilia Payne, and what I learned is she was interested in science from a young age. I learned that she dedicated her life to science, and this is the book cover I'm talking about. This biography called The Astronomer Cecilia Payne Gopashkin. She got married later. And it talks about her life. It talks about the fact that she studied thousands of stars, and studied the spectra of stars and the light. And And basically, she was the one who learned that stars are made of hydrogen. So a lot of flat earthers talk about stars are just lights and planets are just lights, but any video I've seen of them, it shows the star and the planets out of focus. I own a telescope. I looked at the planets myself. I looked at Jupiter through my telescope. I looked at Mars. And when I looked at Mars, it looked that way initially because I didn't know how to focus. I didn't know how to focus my camera, my telescope. But as I started to focus it more and more, I could see the red planet. I could even see some of the ice at the top at the pole. Jupiter, I was able to see really well. So, with these scientists, I looked up some of the telescopes they had back in the day, and around her time, they had an 18-inch telescope. So I'll let flat earthers look into that themselves to see what that means. But suffice it to say, I have a 10-inch telescope. No, I have a 8 or a 10-inch. I don't even remember off the top of my head. But they had an 18-inch telescope. They was able to get a lot of detail. That's just one of them that I was able to see online, just looking at just a little history link showing the history and the background of the observatory there. But suffice to say, they were using several telescopes, large telescopes, and they were studying thousands of stars. And looking at stellar atmospheres, what I learned is that what she did was she was able to use the findings of what we might call the atom and nuclear physics and even going towards quantum physics and applying that towards stars. So basically, scientists had thought at one point that stars were the same composition of the planet because they understood that basically the gases and dust that around a star just coalesced into planets and the asteroid belt and things like that, and those planets cooled down and became the planets that we have today. So they assumed that, and somebody's about to join. Let me add them in.
Yeah, I've got a video here.
Okay, awesome. So Shawn has him some evidence. And give me a moment. I'll finish this little point here. I'll take no more than 10 more minutes, and we'll give Montreal some more time to get his evidence as well.
Okay.
So, thank you, sir. So what she found was that they were wrong about this because what I learned going through this book, and let me flip through a few pages here, is so interesting the depth to which, like I was talking with C. Montreal the other day, and he was saying, for instance, that 98% of the things on the ISS should be on the inside, but he couldn't name one. But these scientists actually look into things in depth and study things and find out things. Thank you, Gentleys. I appreciate it. So let's take a look at some pages here. And I think there's a way to maximize this a little bit bigger. So you can see some of the formulas they have. Eventually we'll get to some of the diagrams of the atoms. What I've learned through this book, and I looked a bit of background, electrons actually have energy levels. They have their orbits. And initially I sort of thought that like you have a hydrogen atom and it has its one little electron and it stays there. But an electron can absorb a photon, a piece of energy, and cause that electron to jump up in orbit. So now that electron is orbiting the atom at a higher orbit. So in this excited atom. And it can get to the point that an atom may lose an electron and may exhibit different light. So we talk about spectroscopy and the fact that we could study the light from stars and learn about the composition of stars and learn about what they're made of. But it even gets more in depth in the fact that we have to look at the temperatures and look at how much energy those atoms have absorbed, because the light that they come from and the lines of light that are blocked off may look different than the actual element, depending on the status of the electrons in that atom. So I'm probably not explaining it well, but suffice it to say, using spectroscopy, an atom could look different than the actual atom, depending on how much energy that atom has absorbed. So doing some background research on this, apparently where she worked at was at Harvard was close to the lab and the classrooms where they were making breakthroughs in the atom and atomic physics, and she actually was the first one to apply that physics to observing stars. So I'm still getting into it, but the depth and the intricacy with which and I'm still at the foundation. She's still just laying down the foundation of the studies that she did. And she took this understanding of these multiple different sciences and began to apply them to studying the light of stars. Not just looking at an out of focus image and saying it's just lights, but getting large telescopes, not just a handheld cell phone and just calling it real, getting large telescopes and studying thousands of stars and applying these different sciences to the exploration and going in depth enough to where she was able to establish that stars are made mostly of hydrogen. Now you have to keep in mind that at the time what she was saying was different. And even when I talked to Fight the Deception uh, not too long ago, and he was, even when I was given the facts of her life, he went on to saying, "Oh, they're just listening to the government, just listening to the NASA, and just just believing what they're saying is just a belief." Even after I told him that this lady studied stars directly and gave an explanation of stars that flew in the face of the explanation of the day, he still hung on to that. And he had to admit later he doesn't even know who this lady is. I'm going to post the links to some of these talks in the chat so y'all can follow up yourselves and see what I'm talking about. But it's amazing how flat earth believers will just come to these conclusions that just absolutely baseless. And you simply ask him a question about the claim, and he had no idea who she was. So I asked him, "Are you saying she's listening to people?" I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that's what they do. Well, obviously she's a scientist, right? It must be her. So the argument just falls on his face if you just like I was talking about earlier with Montreal. Well, you're saying 90% of the things shouldn't be there. Name one. He couldn't name one, so he had to admit that he doesn't know. But he made that claim in full, belief that is right. 90% of the things should be on the outside. So when I look at it, it motivated me to look more into real science and what real scientists actually do, and the depth of the investigation, the depth of the immensity of the time. So this book, Stellar Atmospheres, is from a dissertation she made to become, in school. There was a dissertation she made. So already she had studied for years before she even wrote this, before she started making claims. And then she backed up the claims by studying thousands and thousands of stars and applying multiple disciplines of science to which she became an expert on. So it's just a totally different level of investigation. Time after time when I talk to a flat earth believer, what's their degree in? Watching YouTube videos. Where their claims come from? Watching YouTube videos. Or watching a description of a book, or with hearsay somebody say it on the channel. It's totally it's mind-boggling to think that people actually believe that the conclusions they come to is more accurate than these people who spend their lives with the top equipment, collaborating with each other over decades and centuries and millennia when we get down to it. They believe that after watching a year or two of YouTube videos by people who just made stuff up in the first place, when you actually look at their claims, that they know more. It's amazing to me, but that's what we're dealing with. So give me a moment. I'll share these links. That's pretty much just an overview of what I've been learning in this thing here, reading about Cecilia Payne. So I'll go ahead and post that link to the discussion that we had with Bantam Montreal, since I mentioned that one. I'll post this link to the discussion with Fight the Deception right here. You can see the title of the Stellar Atmospheres. It's free online. All you got to do is go to archive.org and search archive.org and search Stellar Atmospheres or Cecilia Payne. You can start reading this book yourself and see how awesome it is, and the depth of her her investigations and the extent that they go through to actually learn things and validate things. So they just come up and just make claims out the blue and say I'm right because I watched a YouTube video or two. They actually investigate. They don't just take an out of focus satellite and say, well, this proves that stars are just lights. They actually become experts at their machinery and then find a high quality machinery. So it's just it's just amazing to observe the difference, and it gives me a lot more respect for actual science and actual scientists. Some of y'all know I'm into like the out of body experience and extraterrestrials. I've seen these things and had these experiences. So for a while I was against science because it's not accepted widely by mainstream. But as I look at flat Earth, I realize, well, you know what? It hasn't been presented scientifically yet. The evidence hasn't been presented to science to the extent that science accepts evidence. So I applaud them for not accepting out of body experience yet. And I mean, I can't necessarily applaud them for ETs because in my experience enough evidence is there. But it does take some time for things to be accepted. But suffice it to say, I've decided to elevate my level of interaction and maybe getting some of my own videos and elevate my out of body exploration and getting more verification and maybe seeing if an accredited scientist will work with me to make some experiments that will be accepted. So that's what I want to do. I need to up my level and not expect science to accept things when it hasn't been presented in a scientific enough way. So yeah, so my respect for science has greatly appreciated. And if you want to know about, and I'll continue reading this book and reading some background. I think in the future I'll go ahead and try to do a more in-depth explanation, but all I can do is really give an overview at this point because again it goes into quantum, basically atomic science, and it really gets in depth. When you see the basis upon which the claims that real scientists make, that eventually becomes like this book here is lauded as a classic even to this day because she was the one that made this gigantic discovery and basically proved the science of that day wrong, which is what science does. They don't just run from something that they don't know and just change the subject or just make up things. They investigate, they prove it, and if they're wrong, eventually they acknowledge it, and then we build upon science upon that new understanding. So my time that I gave myself is pretty much up, so I'll go ahead and stop, and hopefully y'all found that enjoyable, and we'll look into those links and look into oh damn, this thing is loud. So one moment here, let me pause this. So awesome. So that was my spiel, guys. Did y'all find enough time to find the evidence that y'all needed to prove y'all's points?
Yeah.
What about you, Montreal? Still here, Montreal? Well, I'm sure he'll be back soon. So why don't we go ahead and start with Shawn? So Shawn, you have the floor. Any videos you want to link, go ahead and do your thing. And let me give you a hammer so you could link your things properly. And you could just go ahead and do your thing. So give me a moment here. So boom, add moderator. So you're now a moderator, so you have the floor. And what I'll do, just so we can be fair, I'll give you 15-minute timer just like I have. So you have 15 minutes to do whatever you want to do. And then whenever Montreal gets back, if he does get back, he'll have his 15 minutes and we'll see who makes more sense. And then y'all could just go back and forth. And that seems fair to me. So let me know when you're ready.
Okay. Let me see.
Can you hear me?
Yep, awesome. Good. Glad that you're back in Montreal. So now you're able to hear his explanation. So I think you heard the thing. So again, it's up to you if you want to take your full 15 minutes. But this is what we'll do. Shawn, when he got what he wants to present, I gave him a hammer. We'll just let him present his argument. There's some people in the chat listening. Whenever he's finished, he can let me know. You'll have your 15 minutes to present your argument, no interruptions, and then y'all can go back and forth, and we'll just see based upon the evidence what makes more sense. So you cool with that, Montreal?
Sure. Just by the way, I was never gone. You had me on mute.
Oh, sorry. I forgot to manually take you off. So I'm glad you could hear us now. I have to remember to take y'all off, but just keep in mind you can take yourself off. It's like a temporary thing. And if you want to join on as well, multi-time, what we'll do, let me give them their 15 minutes each, and perhaps you could join. Actually, I mean, you could join now, but just make sure that we give them their 15 minutes. So I'll go ahead and post this link right here again so people could have the link who are joining right now. So this is the link to join the chat, but just remember, if you join, just be quiet. They might not take 15 minutes, but I'll go ahead and give them their time. So the timer's going ahead and starting right now. Shawn has the floor. Montreal, please don't say anything. And there you go.
All right. Am I being... I'm sorry. Do I have the floor?
You have the floor. Your 15 minutes.
Okay,
Do your thing.
Okay.
And
all right. Can we see my screen?
Yes, we can. You're presenting, so everybody in the whole, everybody everywhere can see. Just keep in mind that they can't hear. So if it's sound, you're going to have to narrate, but they can see it, and I'll maximize it so it's as big as I can make it.
Oh, yeah. I've got it muted.
Awesome.
Anyway, so, yeah, this is basically a kid, or not sure his name, Euro News Knowledge. Dennis Locktier shares impressions as he tries on a real spacesuit or spacewalk suit. And he shows off the suits, and they put him in a suit. He describes being put in the suit. I posted the links in both chats too. So
awesome.
And he describes the circulatory system of the suit that cools you, because in space you don't have radiative cooling, and you're pressurized in a suit, so the heat isn't going to be lost. So you need something to take that heat away, or to provide heat when you need it. And he puts on the suit. I'm not sure if he actually goes into the chamber. I think he does. But yeah, they're testing suits in a chamber, man, with people in them. So they do test suits, and they do test like functionality in a vacuum environment. So I mean, this is set up for them to do this in. And he describes how the suit works. And then he gets in the suit. And there's another astronaut. And he talks about being in there. And I believe they closed the doors. Yep. And he is under vacuum pressure right now, along with the other guy. So, yeah. There's that. Now they're depressurizing and opening the vacuum, and they're going to interview him. And this is real famous. This is James May from, Top Gun or Top Gear fame. He has a whole series on going to the moon. And he goes through and he does the exact same thing they did. I'm not sure if he ever makes it to the moon, but it was for a thing for Edge of Space on BBC. And they put him in the thing. And you'll see in the foreground here, you've got a water bottle in the foreground. She puts it in there. That's not to drink. That's to show what vacuum does. And they put him in there, and fast forward a little bit. And see the rubber glove? You'll see the water boiling soon, because the pressure gets lower and lower. There it goes. But yeah, it's so he's a guy in a vacuum in a suit. So what's your point? Now, my third thing here is top 10 interesting things about spacesuits. I didn't put this link in there, though. Evolved from flight suits. First spacesuits was a Soviet SK-1. Now, you can be guaranteed that they tested that thing in a vacuum, because Russians don't mess around. Russians do conduct military training with live fire. So I guarantee they tested that thing in a vacuum with a guy in it. And I guarantee at least 3 people died before they perfected it. Contrary to popular belief, if you were to enter spacesuit or enter space without a spacesuit, you won't die instantaneously. You can survive for at least 15 seconds. You won't flash freeze because your body heat can't be lost that fast through radiation. Your blood won't boil because it'll be inside your pressurized body. Your skin will inflate, but not like a balloon, more like a bodybuilder. You'll be affected by solar you. And then there was I thought there was a little tin thing. Yeah, spacesuits work by providing a stable interior pressure. So, and you don't, the pressure inside the suit doesn't care what's outside the suit. So pressurizing the suit with the air pressure you'd be using in space would be the exact same thing as putting it under vacuum pressure. So, as a matter of fact, it would be more beneficial just to pressurize it and test it that way, because that's the environment that the astronaut is in the pressurized spacesuit. Doesn't matter where they are, it's the environment they're in, because they're completely protected from the exterior environment. So then there's some other protect from radiation. They have a circulatory system, special boots, puncture proof. Just an interesting website. So, and I will copy, paste that into the side chat, and I'll paste it into the live chat. Cool. So I'm done.
Awesome. So let's do this while we still have some time, and I'll make the same concession for Montreal as well. So you see, he still has 8 minutes, Montreal. So some people in the who's watching ask some questions. So if you would present again, and we can answer these questions, so we can make sure that your position is fully presented, and everyone understands how the chamber with him, shoulders with skin exposed, still inside the vacuum. So can you please pull that video back up, Shawn, and show that, and we could either show that it is actually people exposed and what that means, or you can show them that they're mistaken. So can we pull that video back up of the chamber? I'll maximize the presentation again in the Hangout so everybody will see it, and we could just see if they're mistaken about that or what's going on there.
Sure.
And I'll just scroll up. I'll make sure I get every single, and what we'll do, even if it goes over, I'll do the same thing for Montreal, but we'll cover every question before we move on. So here we go. We're going to see if there's exposed skin in the vacuum or people not inside the suit in the vacuum.
Okay, there's a guy there. They're prepping him, right? They're getting him all ready.
Mm-hmm. And if you would, because we already got the title, could you maximize that? And it'll be the biggest size possible. And so we have the title in the first one. Now we're going to look just at the video.
Sure.
So here we go. So it's really big so they can see it. There we go. Perfect.
Actually, can they hear me?
They can hear you. Yes.
Okay.
They can hear you on YouTube, but they can't hear the video. So you're perfect. You're doing perfect.
Okay. So I can do the volume and okay.
We just won't be able to hear the volume. Only you can hear the volume on the video.
Okay. Okay. Now, let me see.
You can clearly see the guys inside.
So why don't you do this? Let them know at what seconds. Like we can see the seconds at the bottom. At what seconds of the video is the guy at the inside the chamber, Montreal? So why don't we back up a little bit if you will, Shawn?
See him. Don't. You're going to start with the semantics here. You can clearly see while the balloon is inflating, the guy's inside.
Where's the
It's a moot
soldier?
point.
Where's the soldier that's with him?
All right, so
he's the only person in the chamber,
fine.
man.
Let's just talk. I don't know why you're saying semantics, sir. You all have a funny logic. I'm literally asking for the second in the video because we're talking about a video and what you see in the video. So it's not semantics to ask what's the actual second in the video.
You'll see him.
Okay, so we'll back it up.
A little
yeah,
bit.
so back up, please, Shawn. So just let us know. Just pause it and we can see the exact second. So
right there.
Okay,
Right
okay,
there.
so let's stop.
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
so
not there. No, you want to. Oh,
okay, not there. Okay, so just play it and just tell us to pause when there's pressure and there's a guy in there.
There. I mean,
so just
I'll put it on.
Look
I'll
for the
put it on
balloon.
super
You're going to see
slow.
the balloon.
Okay.
And you're going to see the guy.
So he's going to slow it down for us. Good idea. So it's not at half the speed. So tell us when to pause when the guy is in there with the skin exposed, Montreal.
Now you see, let me go back a little bit. Now you see that little.
Where are you going?
See that open doorway?
This is still his time. Let him explain his point.
See that open doorway where this guy's standing in? The guy in the background? It's the same as the open doorway that you're looking through.
Why is he in there with an oxygen mask?
Because right now
ask
they're
yourself
saying that water boils at 63,000 feet. They're in there to show that you can survive that high altitude with a mask on in a plane. Then they all come out and they leave him alone. And then they pump it up to full vacuum pressure.
Right.
So they increased the vacuum. They increased the vacuum gradually. They pumped up the glove to flight conditions. Then the two guys stepped out. Then they pump it up to full vacuum pressure.
You didn't say that before. Funny, huh?
No, well, I showed the video.
So let's look. Let's see if it's so. Let us know when it's actually a full vacuum, and we can make sure that there's nobody else in there for us, Shawn. Is this here or the?
You see the guy's helmet? You see the guy inside with his helmet right there?
What, to the left, right there?
No.
The left-hand side, yeah.
That's not a guy.
So what is that right there, Shawn?
No, it's not a guy. Okay.
What is that on the left right there, Shawn?
I don't know.
Looks like a helmet to me, Shawn.
All right, well, let's see if they give us an angle where we can see it more clearly. But I could say it does look like a helmet. That doesn't mean there's a guy there, though. It could be just an object that looks like a helmet. So
yeah,
let's see if we can get a better view.
Right.
I find that flat Earth is only one to accept any possibility that fits what they want to believe. So look right there. Pause that, please. We can see it's not a guy. Go back a little bit, and we can see exactly right there. That's not. It's obviously not a guy. So go. So it'll come up again momentarily.
Yeah, I meant to hit pause, and I hit the timeline instead.
Yeah, I do that all the time.
And notice the full pressure is only on for a few seconds. Had he been in there for a few minutes, he would have been dead.
No, he wouldn't have.
Well, let's not change the.
Oh, yeah.
Let's not move the bar. We've just proven. He's proven that they actually tested it. Right, pause. Yeah, he's proven that they tested in the vacuum. So we could. So are you still thinking that's a guy right there, Montreal, or people in the chat? Or are you accepting that there's not a guy right there?
Look, I can't be 100% sure.
So you're looking at the little thing right there on the left side. It's the same thing.
Helping him. There were two guys helping him. That's just a helmet sitting there, man.
Or whatever it is. Doesn't look like a guy to me. It doesn't even look like a shape like a helmet.
The point is that if you notice the bubbling of the water, they just left it there for a few seconds just to show, hey, look. They didn't leave it for a long time. Let them stay in there for 2-3 minutes.
No. So we're not changing the bar. The bar wasn't. Well, hold up. It's so long. The bar was. That's not the way to do it. Period. So we're not going to change the bar. We're going to argue the point. So let's go back to your original point. So and let me just check the chat. So as far as I can tell, he showed that wasn't a guy. Whatever it wasn't a man. It was some kind of tall little thing that looked like a helmet, but it wasn't a man. So now
hire midgets.
So he showed that the guys did leave, and he explained why there was a guy in there with a mask. They was testing it at a high altitude.
What proof does he have? What proof does he have of that? I bet you he just made that up.
Well, I mean,
bet you I didn't.
Well, we're just looking at the video.
I want to bet I didn't make it up.
Yeah. So we're not going to go there. He presented his. No. He presented his evidence. So now it's your turn. So I'll start the timer for you. And you're presenting the evidence that, and again, to me, it seemed like it was trying to lead to something that you wasn't really making a point for. So just clarify the point you're going to make. I think is that they can't test it that way or something, or whatever point you're going to make. Let's look at your evidence. Let me know when you're ready. I'll start your 15-minute timer.
Daryl, you seem to have a problem when somebody explains something to you. Somehow you don't understand it, or you seem to have this thing. Seriously.
Okay. Well, I'm happy to be corrected, and I'm happy to work on this, sir. So I'll give you your 15 minutes right now to help me with that. So just let me know when you're ready to start, and we'll let you go.
Well, like I told you the last time, I can't really present anything because I'm on my phone. But if you would be as kind as what you did last time, I can name you a video.
You know it, sir. You know I'll do it. So just let me know where to go, and I'll present it myself so
Perfect.
Shawn can
Thank
see
you.
it, and I'll put whatever link you want to show, and we can make it happen. So just get that link for me. I'll post it. And I gave you a hammer so
Sure.
you can post it into the chat. So just post it into the chat. I can copy it straight from the chat.
I can't really do that.
I forgot. No
why I'm
problem.
asking you
So post a link in the phone
on
too,
YouTube.
in the Hangout too, and I'll post it there. So yeah, just post it right here in the Hangout, and you should be able to post it there, and I'll link it in the chat and link it in the Hangout, and I'll present it to Shawn for you.
Well, you see, I can't really do that because I'm like I said, I'm a newbie to this, so I can't really do this.
What's the name of the video? Let's see if I can find it. What's the name of it?
It's a short video. It'll take you 2 seconds. It's called NASA Vacuum Chamber.
Okay, so NASA Vacuum Chamber.
Why?
And I'm searching
Why
for it
they
right
don't test with astronauts?
Okay. So this is a video that'll show why they don't really test with astronauts in the vacuum chamber.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. NASA vacuum chamber. NASA vacuum chamber. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do.
This will show.
Let me. You're able to proceed with this presentation, right? What I'm going to do is present this to you, and you could just help me search for it because it doesn't. I didn't see anything with just that.
Oh, you didn't find it? It's 4 minutes and 53 seconds.
That's fine, but you can help me find
It's
it
by
now.
Mig Mag.
Okay, no problem. We shall find it, sir. We shall find it. So this is what I searched. Just let me know when you can see it.
Okay. It's with a man wearing a green shirt. Keep going. I'll tell you when you find it.
So and you see what I searched here, NASA vacuum chamber. So that's the search.
I can see you. Yeah.
I found it.
You did find
I
it?
can
Awesome.
post the link. Yeah. Hold
Awesome.
on.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Shawn, and I apologize to you guys for this.
Hey, no problem, man. We understand. And we appreciate you hopping on and while you're out and about on your phone. So, well, did you post it into the chat or did you? Oh, there it is, right there. Awesome. So I'll go ahead and load this myself. Copy link location. I'm going to just post this into my presentation here. So let me make sure everybody can still see it. Yep, everybody can see. Oh, now it's just saying I'm presenting. Give me a moment here. Let me pull that. Make sure the actual video is showing. Oh. So let me try this again momentarily. There we go. I'll just present that window specifically. Boom.
That's the one. Perfect.
Awesome. Perfect. So you can see it. Let me make sure everybody else can see it. How does this thing? I guess I got to change which window it's showing. One moment here. Why can you see it? But maybe it's just the way it's made. I only see. Could have swore I remember seeing what I was presenting before. There we go. Now it's working. Boom. So now you can see it. Everybody at home can see it. So do you want to just play this whole thing straight?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Oh, sounds good. So I'll put the 15-minute timer on. Boom. I'll start the video, and you can see it. You can just comment as you want. And actually, hold up. Maneuvering through these windows. Let me start the video first, and I'll press the timer. So the video is going. And again, they can't hear, so you have to narrate.
But the ultimate and most dangerous test was a huge, specially
Well, are you kidding me?
Okay, well,
the whole thing is to hear the video.
Okay. Well, what I'll do, I'll just repeat. Everybody, let me put this link in the chat. So maybe what y'all can do, guys, those who are watching, I'll just give us a moment. Yeah.
Turn on captions. Turn the captions on in the video.
Ah, captions. So I'll turn on captions. Thank you, sir.
Nice. That's it.
I'll post this link in the chat, and what I'll try to do, you can either, I'll let the video play full. So you can either listen to the video yourself, and I'll let it run for the full 5 minutes. You can hear it through the YouTube. Awesome. I forgot. They can't hear it. Just you can't hear it. So you can't hear it, but they can hear it. So I'll play it through the YouTube. The people at home can hear it. You've already heard it before, Montreal, so you'll know what it says. So yes,
Perfect.
so they can hear it. So give me a moment. Let me get back to that. I'll rewind it back. Captions are on. So here we go. It's just playing. Everybody can hear it.
I was really talking over everybody. Then I was playing it.
Okay, that's okay.
While you were talking just now, and they could hear it. That's funny.
So here we go. It's playing from the start. And here we go. Here it goes now, guys.
But the ultimate and most dangerous test was a huge, specially constructed vacuum chamber.
They were able to pull all the air out to create a big vacuum, just like it would be on the moon. That way we could test our suits to make sure there was no leakage.
One such test narrowly avoided disaster. Jim LeBlanc was the test subject in the vacuum chamber. Cliff Hess, the supervising engineer outside.
Jim, while you're exercising, I'd like you to stay intermediate all the time, okay? I'm pretty cool right now. Okay, well, you'll warm up here in a minute, so let's stay right here if you can stand it.
The testing started just normally, like they all do. And Jim was at a vacuum in the spacesuit.
Well, I feel pretty good here.
With all the air sucked out, all that protected him was his pressurized suit. Then something happened.
I heard over the headset that he was losing suit pressure.
The tube pressurizing his suit had become disconnected. He was in serious danger.
There really wasn't any feeling. It was just happening so fast, trying to get the chamber back to a safe pressure and Jim to a safe pressure was inside the suit.
As I stumbled backwards, I could feel the saliva on my tongue starting to bubble just before I went unconscious. And that's kind of the last thing I remember.
Essentially, he had no pressure on the outside of his body, and that's a very unusual case to get, and there's very little in the medical literature as to what happens when you have that. There's a lot of conjecture, that your fluids will boil.
Within 25 seconds, a co-worker, sitting in a partially pressurized antechamber and wearing an oxygen mask, was able to dash in. At the normal rate of repressurization, it would have taken 30 minutes to make the chamber safe. Hess repressurized it in just over a minute.
That's much, much faster than you would ever come down in an airplane. It would really hurt your ears if you did that.
Finally, it was safe to let a doctor in. Miraculously, LeBlanc had already regained consciousness.
When I stood up in the chamber, I felt fine. My ears ached a little bit from the course of rapid repressurization.
This was one of the few instances where anybody was ever exposed to that low of a pressure and lived to tell about it with no obvious damage.
Such an accident in space would have been fatal. But thanks to testing like this, no astronaut has ever had to face a similar situation.
What's up, guys? I've been reading comments and a lot of you been asking to put water in a vacuum. So let's check it out. So I got water over here. We're gonna fill it up, the beaker, with water. Boom. Then we're gonna cover it with the vacuum chamber and then turn it on and see what happens.
So you can go ahead and stop the video now. That's pretty much what I wanted to show.
Oh, let me unmute myself. Okay, sounds good. So I heard the video. Would you go ahead and let us know how that supports your point?
Well, my point is, you see how dangerous that was? They did it back then. They found out that the slightest little mistake, they would kill the astronaut. So after that, they never did it again.
Okay.
Makes no sense. You know, it's very, very dangerous.
Okay. So let me see if anybody at home, well, I say at home, I mean in the chat, and let's make sure we give him his time. And I know what you're thinking already. I'm thinking the same thing, but let's make sure that we give people who's listening. So, does anybody in the chat have a question for Montreal about his video, or does anybody in the chat have a rebuttal to Montreal about his video, so I can give him the same consideration I gave Shawn and give the fans the same consideration I gave them with Shawn? Anybody have a comment or rebuttal about that video? Looks like I'm not getting any comments on that one. Anything you have to say about that, Mies?
By the way, can I just say one more thing on the subject?
Surely.
It's a little far to the left, but we all heard of Mark Sargent, I assume.
Okay. Yes, I have.
Well, he has a challenge to NASA that he will put on their spacesuit, and he's willing to go in that giant pressurized chamber anytime.
Awesome. I mean, that sounds like a good challenge to challenge them on whether their suits really work. So thanks for letting us know about that. So it looks like I don't see any. Okay. So Gently has a comment. So let's see what comment Gently has for you, Montreal. The slightest little mistake, his air pipe blew off. So Gently's from the chat is mentioning something that I noticed as well. He's saying that according to the video, it says a mistake was made and his air pipe blew off. It sounded like you were saying that it couldn't be done or is impossible or that's not a good way to do it, but the video said that it was a mistake that was made, and that's what caused the difficulty. That's what caused. It's like if this was to happen in space, that's what I heard it say. If this was to happen in space, it'll be tragic, and this mistake happened just now. So let's address that first. So what do you say about that?
I say, sure, they made a mistake, so they should have went back and corrected it and kept on going and showing us more tests. That's all they did, and that's,
right.
Shouldn't they have continued on?
So so what you're saying is after that mistake, they didn't do it at all anymore after that.
Well, it seems that way.
Okay.
I haven't seen any other besides this. What he showed us there with the actor.
Okay.
And given that Mark Sargent is questioning NASA, why don't they just take him up on the offer?
Okay. So
then we'll be quiet. We'll know proof that their suits actually work in space.
Okay.
I don't believe they do.
Okay. Okay. So we answered the first question. He acknowledged gently that there was a mistake, but he's saying, if I'm understanding you correctly, that after that mistake they didn't do it anymore because it's too dangerous. Is that correct?
I said it seems that way to me, and I'm trying to find other. Yeah.
Okay. So Gently's next question was your video showed no evidence that the test was never done again. So it sounds like you're acknowledging that you can't prove it was never done again. It's just that it seems to you that it hasn't been done again.
Correct.
Okay. So
prove me wrong.
Okay. So my next question is this. So why does not Shawn's video show that it hasn't happened again because clearly Shawn's video was after that video recorded. Would you agree?
I agree, and I will explain you why I don't believe it.
Okay.
First of all, number one, it was done with an actor. Number two, they left the chamber at max boiling point there for a second. I mean, that was just a show. Show me an astronaut, show me the suit, show me, the numbers, and I'll believe it.
Okay.
Not like this.
What about the other one with the Russians? There was two guys.
I didn't see anything with the Russians that actually showed the numbers, tests, and you just mentioned it.
Okay. So he did show another webpage.
I showed you a video, man.
Actually, I don't remember the second one with the Russian myself, actually.
Yeah, it was the kid. It was the first one.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
Putting on the suit and showing the.
So why don't we show that one again? Let's show that one again.
Okay, I didn't want to like show the whole thing because I didn't want you get it nailed with a strike.
Oh, I understand. So it might be a copyright strike. Why don't we just show like don't play it, but let's just click through it, and he could load it up himself. But
yeah, it's Euro News Knowledge. It's a check marked channel. So yeah, they might take offense to it.
Oh, I understand. So, but he said he didn't see it. I guess it was so fast. I didn't even make the connection myself as well. And of course, I'm like looking at the chat and stuff sometimes, so maybe I just missed it. But I do remember you saying the Russians, they tested that thing, and I saw that orange suit. So maybe if you give me the link, and there we go. Awesome.
This video. I mean, this is the first one I played.
Okay. Yes, I do remember that one. So
yeah.
Why don't we look at that one more time, and this would be the second, and he could explain that, because he's saying that apparently he didn't accept the evidence you showed, so let's make sure that we look at both videos enough so we can see.
Do you want the volume or not?
I'll tell you what, let's start it without the volume to avoid a strike, and if that's still not enough for Montreal, I don't mind taking the risk, but let's try it without.
If they showed numbers, they'd be in Russian anyway, if you saw you saw numbers. So this is a Russian video, or it's a video of a guy in Russia.
And I'll get to your last question next, Gentleys. We'll address this second one first about whether it's happened again, evidence for it, that it was never performed again, or evidence that it was, and then we'll get to the third question about Mark Sargent.
Do you think that this thing that they're showing you here can hold pressure?
Yeah, absolutely.
Come on, guys. He'd be like the Michelin Man.
You know how many layers are in a spacesuit, man? Of high tech,
it don't matter.
Fibers and stuff.
Well, let me just be clear to moderate here. We're not going to talk about just hearsay and do you think so? Oh my gosh, that seems incredulous. We're not going to talk about arguments of incredulousness. I don't believe it. It doesn't make sense to me, so it's not true. That's not evidence. If you're going to say that the suit is not powerful enough, then you're going to have to come back with some evidence to show that. So, but right now we're talking about did the test happen or not. If you want to talk about whether the suit is powerful enough, I can give y'all 15 minutes to find that evidence.
He's wearing long johns, dude.
All right. But let me finish though.
Costs more than your car.
If you want to talk about whether the suit actually, because at first your argument was it didn't happen, but now
I'm
you're
just messing around, Daryl. Take it easy.
Let's try to be serious, because I do want to get and I thank you for letting me know you're just joking, but I guess just let you know I've actually had debates with flat earthers, and that's what I've experienced them doing seriously. Like we talk about one point, and the point starts to not stand up, and then they like change and they want to debate another point in the middle. So I apologize if you didn't mean that, but I was trying to stave that off. So let's go ahead and look at this video here.
That blue suit probably cost more than my first car.
Mm.
That thing right there.
That's what they want you to believe, Sean.
No, that's
well. Let's skip through it. Let's skip through it a little bit to when we get to the vacuum thing. When do we get to where he's testing it? So we see him putting it on. We see the little blue thing underneath. He has some layers going on. But he's still incredulous. Yeah, but he's still incredulous about it.
Just like NASA's $3,000 hammers.
Well, that's just politics, dude.
But again, now we're talking about did it happen? Now we're talking about did it happen again? You'd agree that this video is after the one you showed Montreal?
Yes, I would agree.
Okay. I think those double mics are pretty cool. Looks high tech, the mic on both sides. All right, so he's showing what's underneath with the blue, and now we see the people with the suits on top of it. Is that what we're seeing, Shawn?
Yeah. Yeah, he's wearing his temperature regulation suit.
And who are these people? These are astronauts, Shawn?
Those are probably cosmonauts training.
And it says trying on a real spacesuit.
Yep.
All right, let's go a bit more. Let's go a bit more to when he's about to close it. He's trying getting in. Maybe we can skip a little bit there.
I'm trying here. No, it connected this.
All right, so he's getting now we're seeing what the other ones look like. He's showing us the transition, right? getting inside.
Yeah.
So now we can see what the inside looks like. Are you able to see it, Montreal?
It looks really cool. It opens from the back side, I see, huh?
Yeah, it looks high tech. So now we see the layers. We see the long drawn looking layer, the blue layer, and now we see the outside suit layer. He's putting the thing on.
Now this isn't the suit that they'd wear in, like when they take off or when they blast off or whatever. This is
for outside. Yeah, I know.
This is a spacewalk suit. This is an EVA suit.
Yep.
Right, and to make sure I'm clear, let's say they're doing some kind of maintenance on the ISS. This is what they would use to go out there and do that. Is that correct?
Yeah. Now I'm
a suit like this.
Yeah. Well, I don't understand Russian.
Exactly. So, but the point was just whether it's happening or not. So this will certainly suit that purpose. Whether it's going to be accepted or not is different, but we're able to see the video and see it happening. So.
Sure, I'll accept it. If you see water boiling and you see him in there for a few minutes, it'll look pretty convincing. I'd have to do more research on it, but
right.
let's see it.
So now they close the chamber. It looks like. Let me make this big again in the presentation.
And then it comes out.
All right. So that was the test. The test. Does it say how long the test was for, or the?
No.
Okay. But we see they closed it. Was that a pressure gauge? Are you able to skip back? Did it show a pressure gauge with 0? Did I notice a pressure gauge where they were showing 0 atmosphere? Like a little bit back?
I never.
You have to admit, we didn't see much.
No, I never saw.
Are you able to skip back a little bit more? Like right before they closed it, I think I saw a pressure gauge. Right there. You saw it? If you let it play from right here, we should be able to see it. It'll be to the right. Right there. Yeah. Is that a pressure gauge right there if you pause it?
Looks like it.
Yeah, but it's not a lot of detail, but we can see the general experiment going on. In other words, it looks like. So why don't we do this? Let's go back to your video. What I'll do is I'll go back to Montreal's video and see if they show those details in Montreal's video. So why don't we do that?
But before you do that, Daryl, can we agree that this is not conclusive?
Well, I'll put it like this.
It's How about you, Shawn?
Yeah, I mean it's not. Well, you don't have every bit of data, but I'm sure if you like contact the place that did the test, they would provide you with all the data you need.
Well, I'll put it this way. I'll let it be this way because we're not there, and we could always keep moving the bar and moving the bar and moving the bar. And do they have a balloon in that one? And do they have a this in that one? But I think this is a fair way to do it. Is that video showing at least as much as Montreal's video is showing? That seems to me like a fair comparison. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show Montreal's video. And
I'd like to rebut Montreal's video.
Certainly, we can rebut both of them. But first, let's just look at the evidence.
Before I forget what I'm talking about. Before I forget.
Okay. So let's go ahead. And matter of fact, the video is here. So go ahead and ask your question, Shawn.
Now the video says why they don't test spacesuits in a vacuum anymore. And it showed why they don't test spacesuits. Too dangerous for the astronaut, which is exactly what I said. And what did the guy say in the video? He said, "We didn't do it because it was well." We'll play the video and I'll talk about that.
Okay, sounds good. So that'll tie in what we was going to do. So that's perfect. So I'll play this video again, and what we can do is.
I said so.
This is my logic, Montreal, and let me know if you think it's wrong. If your video doesn't show any more than his video, I think it's valid to use both videos. I think if your video doesn't show a balloon and water boiling and stuff, I think it's unfair to expect his video to show that. Would you agree?
100% agreed.
Okay, so I'll present again, and we'll take a look at his video, and we'll see. So what I would ask you to do, Montreal, is see if your video is at least shows somehow more than his, and Shawn will be looking for the wording to see if the part of the video that says, I remember the part he's talking about, but we'll just find it specifically. So
no, he's right. He's right in what he's saying. It does say it in the video. I'm not disputing that.
Okay. Okay, so awesome. So we're getting on the same page. Then after that, y'all could just go at it. I'll mute myself, and we could just go back and forth. And both sides presented their evidence, and now we have something to base our argument on, not just I'm right, you're wrong, right? So that makes sense to me. So let me play the sound again.
Just like it would be on the moon. That way we could test our suits to make sure there was no leakage.
So you're saying right here, let me put
One such test narrowly avoided
saying-
disaster.
So you're saying right here they're testing it to make sure that there's no leakage, and you're saying one such test narrowly avoided disaster.
Jim LeBlanc was the test subject in the vacuum chamber. Cliff Hess, the supervising engineer outside.
Jim, while you're exercising, I'd like you to stay intermediate all the time, okay? I'm pretty cool right now. Okay, well, you'll warm up here in a minute, so let's stay right here if you can stand it.
The testing started just normally, like they all do. And Jim was at a vacuum in the spacesuit.
I feel pretty good here.
So me myself, I don't see any balloons or anything like that validating that there's a pressure decrease in there. If you see anything like that, point it out to me, Shawn. I mean, or Montreal.
No, I already yielded to you that there is no such thing.
Okay, awesome. So that means that we have to accept his video as
Either
valid
test
as well.
could be a lie.
Okay. So
Either test could be a lie. Agreed.
No. So we're not going to move the bar. So you presented this as evidence for your point. So we want to stand, and we're going to accept his video as evidence for his point. Now it's just a matter of we're talking about the detail of what they actually say in the video. Does what they say happen support your point? I think Shawn is trying to show that they're basically saying we got to do it this way because if we just went straight to space, we can have this problem in space. So since you've yielded that point,
I agree.
Okay,
You're making my point.
Okay, so we'll let y'all go back and forth on that. But long as the evidence is presented, we're fine.
And I
Just
believe he
before I
said,
went unconscious.
because
And
this
something
happened,
happened.
no
I heard
future
over the
deaths
headset
ever happened.
he
in
was losing
space
suit pressure.
due to this. They didn't have to.
The tube pressurizing his
deal with
suit
it.
had become
So
disconnected.
this is your source, your citing, saying that
He was
we
in
went to
serious
space.
danger.
I respectfully disagree. What I'm trying to
Well,
show
give me a
you
moment.
is
Give me a moment. Let's let everybody. Whoa. Let's let everybody hear it, guys. Let's let everybody hear it, and then y'all can go back and
As I
forth. But
stumbled
I just want to make sure
backwards,
everybody's on the same page with the evidence
could
we're discussing.
feel the
So let me
saliva
try to
on my
find this
tongue
part of the video. It
starting
shouldn't
to
take long.
bubble. Just before I went unconscious. And that's kind of the last thing I remember.
Oh my gosh.
Essentially, he had no
It's
pressure
not.
on the
There we
outside
go.
of his body.
They wasn't
and
seeing it.
That's a very unusual case
Sorry,
to
guys.
get, and there's very little in the medical literature as to what happens when you have that.
I mean, it's
There's
kind
a
of
lot
like
of conjecture, that your fluids
J.M.
will boil.
Truth saying that he's sure that anti-gravity
Within 25
exists,
seconds.
but in order for anti-gravity to exist, you have to admit there's gravity.
A co-worker sitting in a partially pressurized antechamber and wearing an oxygen mask was able to dash in. At the normal rate of repressurization, it would have taken 30 minutes to make the chamber safe. Hess repressurized it in just over a minute.
That's much, much faster than you would ever come down in an airplane. It would really hurt your ears if you did that.
Finally, it was safe to let a doctor in. Miraculously, LeBlanc had already regained consciousness.
Okay, I found that part of the suit. So it's right here. I mean, it's part of the video. So everybody at home can hear
Such
it.
an accident in space would have been fatal.
So he says such an accident in space would have been fatal.
But thanks to testing like this, no astronaut has ever had to face a similar situation.
But thanks to testing like this, no astronaut has ever had to face a similar situation.
Yeah.
So that's right there at 3 minutes and 25 seconds of the video. I'll play it one more time for the audience.
But thanks to tests.
That was one of the few
Right, actually,
instances where
3 minutes
anybody
and
was ever
15 seconds of the
exposed to
video.
that low of a pressure and lived to tell about it with no obvious damage.
Oh, and actually he said something a little bit earlier than that. He says...
That's basically the only effect I had.
That was one of the few instances where anybody was ever exposed to that low of a pressure and lived to tell about it with no obvious damage.
Such an accident in space would have been fatal.
So he says such an accident in space would have been fatal. The tube coming off and letting out its pressure. So he's saying such an accident in space would have been fatal.
But thanks to testing like this, no astronaut has ever had to face a similar situation.
No astronaut has ever had to face a similar situation. So now we've established that since he presented this as evidence that doesn't have any balloons, Shawn's video with no balloons confirms that this test has been done after that. And then also the test with balloons confirmed as a vacuum. So we confirm that this test is going on. And we heard from...
I mean, just think about it logically. Let's say...
So go. Y'all two go. I'm going to mute myself.
Think about it logically. You're going to go learn how to do Kung Fu. Are you going to like learn the moves and learn, you know, on a practice dummy? Or are you going to go up against like 30 dudes first day? No, you're going to use a practice dummy and you're going to shadow box and you're going to work on your form. And that's what they do. They don't test things on humans first off. Number one, that would be inhumane now. But I mean, what's your point behind all this? You're just strengthening our point. You're weakening your own point by showing that, yeah, it's too dangerous for humans. That's why they don't do it now. They found a different way to do it.
No, what you say makes no sense, Shawn, because if they found a fault in the suit, they would have just kept on testing. By the way, this test was like 30, 40 years ago.
Okay.
It's not current.
Right.
So with every new suit, with every new upgrade, like when they make a car, the next car they make, don't they take it and test it? And what you're saying makes no sense. Why would you test your new suits in a pool?
They don't.
All that you've been saying now for the past...
Dude, they don't test the suits. They don't test the environmental, you know, whether you can breathe and whether they'll stand up to a vacuum in a suit in a pool.
Sorry, I meant train. Why would you train in the pool?
Because we can't create anti-gravity on Earth.
Okay, that's one aspect of your training. But wouldn't you want to test your suit in a non-pressurized system?
Why?
It doesn't make sense what you're saying.
You aren't non-pressurizing your suit, and when you're going to space, you pressurize the suit.
Right, against
the suit. So why wouldn't they test
against a vacuum? So you'll be like the Michelin Man.
Why?
Wouldn't you want to test the joints, how your arms move?
Why?
I'll tell you why. Have you seen?
It would be the same if you inflated it.
Adam Savage.
The same thing.
Have you seen Adam Savage, the test that he did with a glove in a vacuum?
Sure.
Have you seen that?
I stopped watching those guys a while back, but no, I haven't.
You know who I'm talking about, correct?
Yeah, Mythbusters.
I highly suggest that you check that video out, and it was not even in a full vacuum. He just did it in a box with a glove, and he just couldn't move. He said himself, "There's no way I could manage a screw or a tool or anything."
Down to.
Well, I'm not exactly sure, but it wasn't as close to, or not even close to, space. So
this is what I'm not understanding, guys.
Logically, Shawn, you're a smart guy. You've been in the army.
This is what I'm not understanding, guys. So I can make sure we have this clear. Are you saying that when they tested those suits in those videos, they didn't really do it in the vacuum, Montreal?
No, what I'm saying is, today, with their current spacewalks, with their current suits, doesn't it make sense to test it in a vacuum?
You're saying it makes sense to test it in the vacuum?
To see if the joints move correctly, if the wrist joints move, if there's no leaks. Doesn't that make sense to you guys? If the seals are holding up.
Then they inflate them. They inflate them to a pressure that's the equivalent to what they would experience in space.
What's going on, Matrix? But let me make sure I understand this one thing, because it seems to me that the video he presented shows them testing the suit in the vacuum. So I don't understand why you're saying doesn't it make sense that they do it when all three of us. I mean, not all three of us, but both of y'all showed 3 videos of them doing it. So I'm not. That's why what you're saying earlier is not making sense to me.
They showed an actor, Daryl. They showed an actor.
So you're talking about one video.
In a vacuum chamber.
Moment.
Where's the NASA test?
One moment. We're talking about all 3 videos.
What about the 2 Russians and the Russian kid?
And what about the one you showed? So I mean, what I'm saying is
we showed that in a second.
That was an American aviator. So your argument's not holding water, dude.
So you think your video they wasn't really testing it in a vacuum?
No, I didn't say that. Again, Daryl, you're not listening, dude.
I seem to be listening well,
What is your
but
problem?
it sounds like you're saying they're not doing what we show videos of them doing. That's why it's not making sense to me. It sounds like you. Go ahead, Shawn.
No, I'm talking very clear to you, Daryl.
Your own video.
You did the same thing with Sleeping Warrior. You did the same thing with Dirt. You don't listen.
Your own video is damaging your argument. You showed a video. You say, well, why don't they test them in a vacuum? Well, you showed why they don't test them in a vacuum with a person in them.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's why they don't do it. So case closed.
So then, if you don't have a confidence to test in a vacuum chamber, how do you have a confidence to send them in space?
Because once they get them tested with pressure, they're confident they'll last in a vacuum. And I guarantee any astronaut right now would get in his suit and walk into a vacuum chamber with you.
Oh, and by the way, I apologize, you two. We forgot one question from the chat. What's your answer about to Gently's question on Montreal? He asked why. Let me make sure I get to him specifically. He was basically asking why would they listen to Mark Sargent and why would they test it on Mark Sargent? What is your answer to that?
My answer to that is simple. He's calling them out, right? There's a lot of flat earthers, a lot of people that are questioning them daily. The numbers are building by the millions. Your government, I can't speak on this, but you guys are Americans. Your government.
No, one moment. I gotta stop you. Did you just say you can't speak on it?
No, I meant is you guys have a bigger authority than me to demand such a thing because I'm Canadian.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
And you're American.
SE, do you know what the level of priority is for NASA to prove the globe to any flat earther? Do you know what the priority of that is with them? Do you have any idea?
Dude, they work for you. Do you not understand that?
I'll give you a hint.
You are the boss.
Very round number.
So your
Don't
point,
laugh, it's true.
So your point, Montreal, is, and correct me if I'm wrong, is if it was real, they would take him up on his offer and show him and put him in the chamber with the suit on.
NASA has
with all the people questioning.
Go ahead.
Daryl, if you had an organization and everybody daily was questioning.
Not everybody
Wouldn't you just
questioning, dude. 99.999% of the people aren't questioning.
Well, let's clarify.
0.001% of the world's population is questioning it, and it's an.
You're wrong, Shawn, and I can prove it to you.
Okay, so that sounds like a different topic. So, prove to us that everybody's questioning NASA.
I didn't say everybody. I said
you said everybody.
About what Shawn said. There's only a few people.
Okay. So there is only a few people.
And
so SC, back to my question. We've solved this. We've finished with this.
Yeah, with the pressure, I agree.
Let me make a challenge to you. The Earth is flat, right?
I didn't say the Earth is flat. You keep saying that. I say the Earth is stationary. Now, concerning the flatness, it's not, I don't know if it's flat or not, but the dimensions that they tell us is wrong. With the over the horizon test that we can see farther, I question that. But I'm not a standard flat earther.
Okay.
So
how can an equatorial telescope work on a flat Earth, or I'm sorry, on a non-rotational Earth? How do you have circular star trails on a non-rotating Earth with the stars moving?
I'm not an expert on that. I don't know.
Okay.
I can't answer you that question.
Well, why don't we do this, guys, if y'all allow me? I think that interaction went pretty well with each of y'all presenting y'all evidence, and then we broke it down. He may not agree with the conclusion, but I think it's clear that we came to a conclusion. Would y'all like to do the same thing here? Like Shawn could get his evidence that the Earth moves. You can get your evidence that, or whatever it is that supports your position that the Earth doesn't move. Y'all can present y'all evidence, and then we can hash it out. What do y'all think?
For sure.
So
and by the way, I'm not interested in
earther. Is that what you're saying? Because it's either has to be a sphere or a flat plane. You can't have any other shape. Won't work.
Why can't it be a triangle?
Well, that's a different. Yeah, that's a different discussion, Sean. Really, I mean, I would say that's a different discussion.
I was trying to get a grasp on him.
I mean, he was. I think he was honest. He said he doesn't know what the shape is. He just knows it's stationary. That's what you said, right? Right? I mean, Montreal.
Again,
correct.
Yeah. So I think it's fair, and to the way I see it, if of course I know it's a globe, but I'm going to say if for the sake of the argument, if the Earth is a globe, I think just an argument of whether it's moving or not would be enough to prove whether one of y'all is right or wrong, because it's either moving. If it's a globe, it's spinning and moving. If it's stationary, then things should work a different way. So I think that's enough to focus on. So are you confident focusing on just whether the Earth moves or not, what your evidence is, Sean?
Sure.
And you're confident, and he already answered. He's fine with that. So why don't we do this? I'll just take Tim. How much time y'all need to get your evidence? You think?
Oh, I'm not today. I've got stuff to do. I didn't really expect to come on right now. So,
okay. Do y'all want to come on tomorrow? We can schedule it. I'll be here tomorrow at 2 p.m.
Sure.
Central Standard Time.
Sure.
What about you, Montreal?
Tomorrow I can't make it, unfortunately. It'll have to be another time, but I'm really looking forward to it.
Oh, whenever SC's ready, I am. So
what about Wednesday or next week?
I'll let SC set the
Okay. So set your time. He's here right now. Why don't we set a time and we can be back, and it'll be the same format. Now y'all have time to get your evidence. So I think Sean presented first this time, so you can present your evidence first that time, Montreal. Sean can present his evidence, then we can hash it out, and I'm sure we'll come to a conclusion the same. So let us know the day and time, and we'll see if we can hash it out. So Montreal, what day and time do you want?
I can't really say right now. I'm going to have to check my schedule because it's a busy season for me right now.
What about this?
So, but,
y'all are here now.
Happen.
Y'all are here now. What about the same time Saturday of next week? What about that?
You know, that might be doable.
Cool.
I can't promise.
But
that might be doable.
I got to bounce.
Okay, no problem.
I got to pee and
so I'll be here 11:30 Central Time next week. Hopefully I see both of y'all 11:30 Central Time next week, so 2 hours earlier next week. Thank both of y'all for joining, and you be cool, Sean. I think it was an awesome talk.
Thank you.
You're welcome, man.
Good talk, SC.
Yes, same to you, Sean. Nice talking to you as well, Daryl.
Awesome. And if you have time to stay, I can stay a little while longer if you want. We can maybe get some more people on.
I want to show you something.
Okay, and this is what I'll do. I'll go ahead and I'll close this Hangout out. I mean, it's not this Hangout, but this stream out, because it seems like a good contained stream. I talked about stellar stars and Spectra, and Shawn and Montreal had a good debate. So I'll go ahead and close this stream out, but then I'm going to start another one right now. So me and Montreal are already in the chat. If anybody wants to join, I'll put the link one more time in here. So, and that way this won't be like 4 hours long or 6 hours long or something. I think it's a nice contained, whatchamacallem. So just give me a moment. I'll post the details if you want to join. And just give me a moment. I'll start another stream, and then we can start a different topic, whatever the topic is that that Montreal wants to talk about now. So give me a moment here.
I can't really stay long. Okay, Daryl.
However long you want.
But I want to show you something that you asked me to do, a test.
Perfect.
Or an observation. I don't like using the word test.
Okay. So perfect. So I'll
want
stop.
your opinion on it.
Perfect. So we're about to start right now. It's going to basically be a continuation, not long, however long he has, above a continuation of our last discussion. And I may name that, Montreal C, and we continuation or whatever. So give me a moment. You'll see another stream right now, you all.